Someone wishes you happy birthday. You smile, say thanks, and move on. No party planned, no countdown the night before, no posts, just another day that happens to have a number attached to it. And the strange part is, it doesn't feel like loss. It feels normal, comfortable even. From the outside, people read this as sadness, or disconnection, or some quiet sign that something is missing. But that's not what it feels like from the inside. Because for certain people, the need to mark the day, to be seen, celebrated, acknowledged by a room full of people, simply never arrived the way it did for everyone else. That's not emptiness. That's a different relationship with self-worth entirely. And it turns out, the way someone treats their own birthday reveals something specific about how they're built, how they find meaning, where they locate value, and what they actually need to feel okay. That's what this is about. The alarm goes off. You get up, make coffee, check your phone. A few messages have come in. Happy birthday. Some with emojis. One from a family member who always remembers. You reply to each one. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. A smiley face here and there. And then you put the phone down and get on with the day. No particular feeling of occasion. No anticipation that built through the night before. The date arrived, like dates do, and the morning feels like a morning. You're not performing indifference. You're not suppressing something. The quietness is just genuine. What's strange is that the world seems to expect something else from this day. A certain energy, a sense that it should feel different. And for most people, it does. But for some, it simply doesn't. That gap between what the day is supposed to feel like and what it actually feels like is where this starts. The people around you notice the quietness, and they interpret it. The friend who asks if you've made plans then gets a look on their face when you say no. The family member who follows up with, "Are you sure you're okay?" as if the absence of a cake reveals something clinical. The colleague who decides, on your behalf, that you must need acknowledging, and announces it to the room before you can stop them. You know that moment. The office. Someone finds out. Suddenly, there are balloons. Everyone turns. Someone starts singing. You smile because it's the only reasonable thing to do. You're not ungrateful. That's not quite it. You just feel slightly outside the situation, watching it happen to you, waiting for it to end. The assumption underneath all of it is consistent. Not celebrating must mean something is wrong. But that assumption has never quite fit. And the gap between what people project onto this behavior and what it actually feels like from the inside, that gap is wider than most people realize. For some people, the quietness has a history. Birthdays that were forgotten. Celebrations that were promised and then quietly didn't happen. A childhood where the date passed without much weight, and the brain, being the adaptive thing it is, eventually stopped building toward it. Stopped constructing anticipation around something that reliably underwhelmed. Psychologists call this a form of learned expectation adjustment. The mind doesn't keep investing in outcomes that don't arrive. That's one path, but it's not the only one. Some people arrived at birthday quietness from a completely different direction, not through disappointment, but through a genuinely different relationship with external validation. They never built their sense of self around being acknowledged. The date on the calendar was never the point. Both paths produce the same behavior, the same quiet morning, the same simple replies. Only one of them is about pain. For most people, a birthday functions as a yearly confirmation. The messages arrive and something is satisfied. A need to know they're remembered, that they matter to the people around them. These people don't quite have that need. Or if they do, it doesn't live in a date. Layer 1 of this is easy to recognize. I don't really need the fuss. Most people who treat their birthday quietly would say that without hesitation. Layer 2 is subtler. Someone sends a message, not a generic one, but something specific and warm, and something moves. Not because they needed it, because they didn't expect to be touched by something they'd long decided didn't matter. That moment is worth sitting with, because it suggests the need didn't disappear entirely. It just stopped being loud. stopped organizing itself around a date, stopped requiring a response from the world to feel real. Self-sufficiency and emotional distance are not the same thing, but they can look identical from the outside, and sometimes from the inside too. Here's the part that doesn't get said often. The day can feel a little hollow. Not devastatingly, not in a way that demands attention, just quietly. The way a room feels slightly empty when you expected it to feel full. Not because no one cared, but because somewhere along the way, the person built such a complete system for not needing the day to matter that when something genuine arrives, when someone actually tries, they don't quite know how to receive it. The partner who planned something small, thought about it, put effort in, and watched it land with warmth. Yes, but also with a kind of careful deflection. Like the person on the receiving end wasn't entirely sure they were allowed to let it in. That costs something. Not dramatically, just quietly. And it costs the people who try, too. The ones who want to mark the day and find themselves working against a resistance they can't quite name, from someone who doesn't mean to resist at all. This is the honest friction underneath the quietness. It's coherent, and it's still friction. Come back to the morning, the coffee, the phone, the simple replies. That stillness looked like indifference. From the outside, maybe it still does, but it wasn't indifference. It was a person who had built their sense of self somewhere other than in the acknowledgement of others, who finds meaning in ordinary days rather than designated ones, who doesn't need a number on a calendar to confirm that the year was worth something. That's not damage. That's not performed maturity. It's a specific orientation toward internal consistency, toward a kind of self-knowledge that doesn't require an audience. The quiet morning wasn't empty. It was just sufficient. And for people built this way, sufficient has always been enough. They knew what the day was worth before the messages arrived. They just never needed to say it out loud.